Now, speaking of terrorism, I'm based in Israel, but I don't report for the Israeli media. Report for the American media. In Israel, just the past few weeks, I'm sure you've been paying attention to what's going on in the Gaza Strip. Hamas has completely taken over. Do you think Hamas is a terror organization?
I don't think Hamas is a terror organization, and it's a very foolish conflation that you make. I was a close personal friend of the late President Arafat from the day that I met him in 1977 to the day I stood outside the hospital in Paris when he passed away.
Was Arafat a terrorist?
Definitely not. If Hamas are not terrorists, then clearly President Arafat was not.
I'm very close with Hamas. I know Mahmoud al-Zahar all the way down through Khaled Meshal and the leaders in Gaza and the West Bank. And I can tell you that they are terrorists. It doesn't matter, in my opinion, whether they're carrying out some sort of organized plot for liberating their lands or not liberating their lands. They're carrying it out by conducting suicide operations, by firing rockets from the Gaza Strip into Israel. How is suicide bombings, how is firing rockets, how is shooting at Israelis on a regular basis, how is that not terrorism?
Well, we'll just have to disagree on our definition of terrorism.
What is terrorism?
I just caution you against what is a very foolish conflation of two entirely separate phenomena. What counts is not the firepower involved. You're not a terrorist because you've got X kind of weapons and not if you don't. You're not a terrorist if you carry out X kind of operations but not as you don't. You're a terrorist if your goals are illegitimate. And the goals of the National Liberation Movement in Palestine are entirely legitimate. And I've got news for you, are widely supported around the world.
So if somebody has a legitimate goal, then carrying out suicide bombings to further that goal is not terrorism?
Is this an interview or a debate?
It's both.
Yeah? I'm not sure that correcting me is the normal practice of radio interviewers. If you want the benefit of my views, please listen to them. Rather than, I knew as soon as you told me that you were an Israeli correspondent that this was a mistake, this interview.
I'm an American correspondent based in Israel.
Let me just tell you that this interview will be terminated quite soon if you persist in this method of operation. Now, if you want to interview me, listen to what I've got to say. The issue is who the target is. The issue is what the purpose of the military action is.
Who's the target of a suicide bombing?
Well, it depends which suicide bombing. A suicide bombing of in the First and Second World Wars, we festooned our servicemen with Victoria Crosses for taking military action that was bound to lead to their own deaths.
But who's the target now of Islamist suicide bombing?
Well, it depends which ones you mean.
Hamas, Islamic Jihad?
No, but it depends which operation you mean. A suicide bombing of a group of Israeli settlers illegally occupying Palestinian land is an entirely justifiable military action.
All right, so let's move on from there because clearly we're going to disagree. And by the way, Hamas is entirely allied with the global jihad. Mahmoud al-Zahar and the others regularly state that they're looking to impose an Islamic regime.
You or a political broadcast on behalf of the Zionist movement. What are you, by the way? I didn't even know that you were coming here. You've actually got this interview under false pretenses.
I did not.
I think that we should conclude this interview now. I told you at the beginning, before we started, I don't speak to the Israeli media.
I'm not the Israeli media.
Well, you might as well be. And I've no intention of talking to either of you any further. So good afternoon, gentlemen. Please leave before I call the police.
You can call the police.
Okay.
I think I'm going to do exactly that before you leave.
Excuse me?
You can leave that here. Okay? You can leave that here.
Well, no.
Who are you? Who are you, exactly?
I told you exactly who I was.
And who do you
Do
work
a Google
for?
News search. I don't work for any Israeli media.
Who do you work for?
WorldNet Daily, which is an American media company.
You told us you
And
were
you
And
told
Talk
me-
Radio, no, Talk Radio Network.
And who are you? This
Confusion, I
interview.
said Talk Radio
Well,
Network.
if there's a confusion, it's because of your duplicity. This was not an interview with anyone operating out of Israel. I don't talk to journalists in Israel.
I don't come.
And you're not a journalist. You're a political partisan for Zionism. Now, please leave my office.
I have to show you out.
Sure.
Stand clear of the doors.
This is we can't get a picture with him.
What it means is that your face was going to be recognised and reported to the Sergeant at Arms officers.
Okay, what did I mean?
And what it means is...
What did I do?
What it means is because the two of you got in here under false pretences, that you won't be setting foot in the Palace of Westminster again.
Well, hold on a second. What pretenses did I say? I don't understand. Again, what was the false pretense?
Wait to the other side of here, please.
I'm not going to wait. Thank you.
Before you two go,
Yes.
if these two come in again, they came in here under false pretences.
What false
There are no
pretenses?
false pretenses.
Yes, you did. You're not the people you said you were.
What are you talking about?
You're not from the organisation you said you were.
I most certainly
Talk
am.
Radio Network.
Please
I
leave.
most certainly am.
Wait a minute. Excuse me. Can we just find out what's going on before we send them off?
If you stop talking, I'll explain to the officer. They were let in here under those circumstances. They were connected with the national radio network
Which I am. I'm on 265 radio stations across
in
America.
the United States.
Correct.
We're all in the United States.
Can we just have one person talking? I can't hear the face.
They're not connected with that outfit. Instead of conducting an interview, they started to conduct a harangue with a member here. We're not at all happy about it. We don't regard that there's been a security breach as such, but there's been an absolute... We're going to be on to both the organisations that they claim to represent, because they've found their way into the Portcullis House under false pretences. Okay?
Now we can say our part, because that's
Yes, carry on.
absolutely not true.
I have my media
Absolutely
card.
not true.
Can you
But
just
all
take
right,
a
we'll
seat
just
over
leave.
there with us for a second?
Can we just leave?
No, don't just take a seat over there with us for a second.
All right.
We want to get to the-
He got upset because we asked about
I'm going to get
He
someone
asked the
over.
wrong
Someone's
question,
gonna come over
and he got really pissed off. That's what happened.
No, someone's going to come over and have a chat with you.
Is this illegal to ask questions? I mean, I don't know what I did wrong.
We got him upset with the question.
a version of events, and we're just following that up.
Okay.
Okay. One of our colleagues is going to come over and speak to you. Okay.
Not only did he know that I told him like many times, by the way, that I'm in Israel.
Have you specifically come over here for this interview, or
No.
are you doing other things?
Other things. This was part of it. I just got back from Afghanistan. I came over with the Supreme Allied Commander of Europe as his personal guest. And I'm investigating the war on terror around the world. Mr. Galloway was one of the world's most outspoken critics. And that's why I wanted to talk to him and ask him about it. But to say that we're not journalists, or to say that we were here under false pretenses,
Absolutely not true.
absolutely untrue.
So perhaps you should have shown some identification.
They never asked. It's strange.
Well, perhaps in hindsight, that's the sort of thing you'll be doing in the future now. And then perhaps also in hindsight, you might want to ask the sort of things you want to ask.
No, I literally, we told them
if you're
exactly.
not going to ask things that he doesn't want to answer, he doesn't give you any.
I made very
in the first
clear
place.
what we were going to talk about, and we gave our names, our identification.
Well, obviously, the young man I've spoken to, his version is that after a few minutes, the question wasn't the sort of thing perhaps they were expecting.
But that isn't illegal, and that's the way reporters operate.
I'm not disagreeing with you, all right? But I know for a fact that somebody like Mr. Galloway, if he doesn't think the interview is going to be to his advantage, probably, he's not going to want to speak to him.
Right. I actually wanted to hear his side of the view, his point of view, and get that out. I mean, we can disagree. I want to hear his point of view, and I think that
And
that's...
the main thing today was about the war on terror.
Yes.
In general, not,
Yes.
not specific.
Not at all.
Because you've
He
just
asked some
come
questions
I started
on
asking about Israel, and he went nuts.
But
that's part of the
for
war on
me, not
terror.
at all.
Well, we've all got soft points, and obviously perhaps that's one of his.
Well, I have to do a report. I will have to do what we call is like an intelligence slip, which
If you come to notice again,
Uh-huh.
I'm not saying it's not trouble, but it may help somebody else. So it's, oh look, yeah, it was on this up to date. That's what he was doing.
okay.
I haven't personally got a problem with journalists trying to do their job. But,
We're actually nice people, so I'm sorry
do
it
you
came off
reckon
this way.
journalists are nice people?
Thank
Well,
you.
I've learned something.
Well, not most journalists. We're nice people. Thank you, sir. I appreciate
all
it.
right.
Bye-bye.